that government people say. We're going to talk about the state of the seminary for Alumni Day. I promise you this won't last too long, and we'll break things up a little bit. So, what you should know about what's happening recently at Nashotah House is that we've been in a growth mode. And I wanted to say a little bit about our growth. Since 2017, Nashotah House has nearly doubled its enrollment. That's nearly doubling its enrollment in the residential program, the hybrid distance program, and in the advanced degree programs. That's a pretty thrilling prospect for us. It's not over, however. The growth will continue, God willing. That means that we've had a growth in degree-seeking students from 67 in 2017 to the fall of 2021 to 127. And we've had a growth of full-time equivalent students. That's really the credits bought, right, and participated in, from 52 to 101. So when I say doubled, I'm not exaggerating. I think that probably is 90-something%.
Wow.
Thanks be to God.
Yeah, praise God.
Now, I think that is all the more remarkable given the fact that we're sort of up against it in at least two ways. A lot of you know that the general trends in theological education are not going in that direction. Just yesterday, we read about a great seminary, Gordon Conwell, which disclosed a decline of half by half over the last 10 years, and they're selling their campus. Trinity Evangelical Divinity School, my alma mater, just told us a few weeks ago that they're letting 7 full-time faculty go. A number of them, my dear friends. The seminary I taught at before I came here, as did Father Buchan, Asbury on the Orlando campus, is selling their campus. Everywhere we look in theological education, the general trend is a downturn, but Nashotah House has doubled its enrollment in the last 4 years. Again, thanks be to God. We've done that also despite the regrettable brokenness within the Anglican tradition that we serve. And that, we think, is by offering an Anglican wholeness in the place of that brokenness. We serve predominantly, but not exclusively, 2 church bodies that are not only normally holding one another in mutual contempt, but are also at war within themselves. And at Nashotah House, we do not consider it a pragmatic necessity, but a gospel imperative to be a place where people who otherwise are at odds with one another come together to be reconciled. Does everybody understand what that means? Amen. Amen. We are here for all bodies in Christ's Holy Catholic and Apostolic Church who believe that we have something to offer them for the furtherance of their ministry. So against those odds, Nashotah House has been in a growth mode. And you might, we might illustrate that, because everybody loves graphs. Most people don't. You can see a little bit what that looks like. If we put ourselves on a graph with other Anglican and Episcopal seminaries, you'll see that Nashotah House is, by 1 student, the 3rd largest in that group. If you're counting theological students, we're the 2nd largest, but we don't want to get into the details. But you'll see the growth from that blue 52 to that 101. You're probably not used to thinking of Nashotah House as one of the largest Episcopal and Anglican seminaries, but you need to get used to that. That's where we are. That's where we're headed. Another way to look at that is to graph the growth and or decline of our fellow seminaries. And you'll see there's one really long line there that indicates a 95% growth over the last 4 years. Well, a number of other seminaries have been in decline or modest growth. And again, we thank God for that. So you might ask the question, as I have, why? Why has this happened? And there are 4 answers and then a 5th. The first answer has to be our dedicated staff. Nashotah House has an incredibly servant-minded staff who always go above and beyond what's expected of them. The things that are written in their position descriptions. I can't tell you how many Friday evenings the dean is trying to go home at about 6 or 6:30 and finding people in their offices just wrapping up one more thing. We have a very, very dedicated staff. In fact, we did a study and compared what we were spending on full-time equivalent students compared to other seminaries, and we could not find another Anglican or Episcopal seminary that was spending any less than twice as much as we were per full-time equivalent student that had any residential program. That is efficiency. It's also a lot of hard work. It also can't last forever. Our staff is very dedicated, not least our admissions staff, who will do anything to meet new students and to invite them into our midst. It also has to do with our exceptional faculty. We had an incredible core faculty here for years and years, which was not only an attraction, but it's especially a group to be appreciated upon graduation. And we have supplemented and augmented and added to that group some new faculty who have only made us better. The tide raising all boats, as it were. And so the joining of this faculty by some exceptional new additions to what was already a very strong faculty has made a big difference. People want to study here because of who teaches here. And I thought I would just take a minute now and ask the faculty to stand just for a short introduction. Would you please? Stay standing quickly. Father Thomas Bucket, our Associate Professor of Church History. Father Travis Bott, our Professor of Old Testament and Hebrew. Dr. David Sherwood, the Director of the Donaldson Library, and our Associate Professor of Ascetical Theology. Father Matthew Olver, today our Assistant Professor of Liturgy and Pastoral Ministry, and God willing, maybe an Associate Professor in not too long. Father Paul Wheatley, currently our instructor in New Testament, and by June 3rd, he will be our assistant professor when he defends his dissertation at Notre Dame. He'll be our assistant professor of New Testament and Greek. You're last. Father Hans Boersma, who holds St. Benedict's Chair of Ascetical Theology. Dr. Jeffrey Williams, who is our Professor of Church Music. You can tell that he does some work here, couldn't you, after Mass today? Yeah, we sing. Dr. Williams is our Professor of Church Music and Director of St. Mary's Chapel. Father Tom Holtzen is our Professor of Historical and Systematic Theology. You can all be seated. And then there's Elizabeth Kincaid, Dr. Elizabeth Kincaid, our Professor of Moral Theology, who we're very proud of, even though she breaks our heart. We're very proud of Elizabeth, who was just granted a chair and a directorship at Loyola University in New Orleans, and who is leaving us, but making us very, very proud of the process. And we've been so thrilled for the last 3 years to have you as a part of our faculty. Our very committed board is a third reason. I don't think there are any boards of any seminaries that work harder, dig deeper, care more for the institution that they oversee than our board. Our board thinks, eats, breathes, sleeps, Nashotah House. Many of them are alumni, and the ones that aren't have just the same kind of dear affection for Nashotah House. We're so grateful for all the ways that they connect, reach out, advise. Sometimes we argue. But that's probably the best thing about us, is that we've had a few arguments over the last few years, and we're working together better than ever. I think that's probably the best thing you can say for a board. So thank you for your deep commitment to Nashotah House. Last, and by no means least, is our devoted alumni. We find out every time, it seems, when we meet a new prospective student, that the key to them considering Nashotah House is a priest or alumnus or alumna from Nashotah House, who recommended this place, who said it's different than everything else, and you must consider it. If not, you must go there. You folks make that difference. Some of you are specifically responsible. I can name names for the students that we have here. I'm looking at Mark Evans right now. Thank you. All of you are deeply involved in spreading the message, telling the truth about Nashotah House, and you've made all the difference. There is, please, you probably didn't want to applaud for yourself. But I think there is one more answer to Nashotah's growth, and it is that Nashotah House is a treasure, I believe, for such a time as this. I don't know if we planned that or if it was God's design. I think it's probably the latter. But in the turmoil and struggles and challenges of the contemporary church, I don't believe there's ever been a time when Nashotah House was ever more important for the good of the church. We have, in one circle of the world, people reconstructing or deconstructing or losing their faith. We have persons in other places alienated by their Christian upbringing. We have people everywhere who want to believe something that's real and want to be in touch with a Christian faith that is substantial and makes a difference, and who are no longer satisfied with cultural, superficial alternatives. And when they hear about Nashotah House, they say, really? There's a seminary like that? When they come and visit, they come to see that the seminary like that is not mythical, it's not advertising, it's real, and they want to be a part of its blessings. And so I think that Nashotah House is in a unique place at this time, in this place in history. I think Tom Wright, who was our 2006 commencement speaker, said it very memorably and very well. And I think I got the year wrong on here. It was 2006, I believe. Bishop Tom Wright said, I have a sense that maybe Nashotah House, like the Irish in the Dark Ages, is called to hang on to certain things which other bits of the tradition have thrown away, against the time when the rest of the church realizes it needs them again. That was 16 years ago. Does anybody think that the church needs these things any less than it did in 2006? No, I think we all agree. Nashotah House is more important, more relevant, more God's place at this time, especially for the Anglican tradition, than ever before. So we're resolute in our commitment to growing Nashotah House. There's a little clip here that features a familiar face.
If you want formation that's deep and rich and broad in the Anglican tradition, there is no other seminary that does what Nashotah House does. What makes Nashotah House unique is, every seminary has classes and a curriculum. Many seminaries have a really fine faculty. We do too. But I think what makes Nashotah House different is the fullness of our formation. Seminary formation needs to have a lot to do with the intellect. Theology, biblical studies, biblical languages, we do all of that. But we need to form the whole person. because it's a whole person that leads in the church. And the commitment of our faculty and our staff never ceases to amaze me. They have self-selected for our project. That project of being close to the students, being involved in their life, being about the whole person and not just the classroom, our faculty have chosen that life. And the one thing that has always been true here is that it's impossible to fully understand who we are from print or even this video. You have to come and visit and see it for yourself.
If you're wondering why show a video since the person is right here, I could not get any people to walk in slow motion. One time is plenty of two. So just a few thoughts about going forward. I want to highlight 3 things that we're trying to do. Number 1 is we want to continue to enlarge our footprint and grow our student body. We're thrilled that we've doubled the enrollment here over the last 4 years. We don't have any sense that that's done. We're not full. In a few places, we're pushing the edges. We're not full yet. I've been interviewing admissions directors for a prospective position, and a couple of them thoughtfully asked, well, what kind of goals would you have? And I said, well, we've doubled in the last 4 years. We would like to grow by another 50% in the next 3. That's a very ambitious goal. The low-hanging fruit has been harvested. We're going to have to get on some ladders and climb some trees, tell our story to more people, and even better than we have. But I sincerely believe that when people know about Nashotah House, when they know what makes us different, we can continue to grow. We believe that that growth is not for Nashotah House. Of course it's for Nashotah House, but it's not for Nashotah House, it's for the church. We believe with every fiber of our being that the church is better off for well-trained leaders and priests from this institution. It will make the Episcopal Church stronger. It will make the ACNA deeper in its roots. It will make the continuing church. It will make folks from other denominational backgrounds better for having been here. We exist for the church, not for ourselves. And when the day comes when we exist for something only ourselves, then let's close. But we exist for the church. And we believe that God has given us a trust, a stewardship that we're responsible for to serve His whole church. Secondly, we want to continue to care for our beautiful campus and facilities. Now, God knew what He was doing when this piece of gorgeous property on this lake, these glacial remains, and probably some of these trees were given to us in the 1840s. But it is part of our ecosystem here of the whole formation experience, this beautiful place, its buildings and so on. I won't lie to you and tell you that we don't struggle sometimes with deferred maintenance. And deferred maintenance is a consequence of deferred development and finances. So we are fully committed, as God provides the resources to do so, to keep improving its property, to keep improving our facilities, to make it more and more useful for the mission that we have. In fact, if you're not busy at 2:30, I don't know what you would be doing. If you're not busy at 2:30, you should go for a little sip and stroll with Father Trehune and Robin Little. And they're going to show you some things that we've done, and they're going to show you some things that we dream about doing. So you can see where Nashotah House is headed with our property and facilities. Thirdly, and this could be the lead, you know, sometimes you make your big point first, sometimes you make it last. I'm making it last this time, securing our financial footing. It's not a secret again that Nashotah House, over decades and decades, has run a shortfall or a shortage in its finances. And the board, to the administration, to the whole institution is fully committed to resolving that challenge. It will take everything that every one of us has to offer. It will take all of the generosity from all of our alumni that they can manage, from all of the friends that we already have, from friends that we don't know yet that we will have, in order for that to happen, but we're fully committed to doing that. So this is what we're doing along those lines. We have restructured for the continuance of our growth. There is a rumor on campus that the dean can't keep up with all of his responsibilities. I don't know where that comes from, but it's a rumor. And so we have restructured for our continued growth. Specifically, we have formed a leadership team that allows me to engage in some proactive activities, especially around development, that have gone for too long undeveloped. So we have added Father Travis Bott, has been elected by his peers as the chair of the faculty, representing the faculty and academic interests of the institution. We have added, would you please stand when I name you? Father Bott, thank you. We have added Robin Little as our Director of Advancement. We have made Dr. Tim Watkins our Associate Dean, for Academic Affairs. We have promoted our Father Cannon Kelly O'Lear as our Associate Dean for Formation, and Father Jason Terhune is our Director of Operations. This is a great team. Praise be to God that they were all here just when we needed them. And they together make the dean's work possible, and they make the seminary's work of development a reality. So please, let's congratulate them. That all leads into the point that we're prioritizing the work of development. I said to the board what they've probably been waiting for a dean to say for a long time, which is I need to spend at least half my time and probably more traveling and working on promoting this institution. People want to meet the dean. They want to hear about what we're doing. When you go out and tell the story, the enthusiasm is overwhelming. And we have found that to be the case. So we're out, we're toasting Nashotah House, we're telling the story, we're preaching, we're teaching, we're doing everything we can to make as many connections as we can. I told somebody the other day that I'm sort of a civil engineer, which means there have been a lot of bridges in disrepair, and I'm making it my business to repair bridges that have been broken. And there is no more joyful work than to bring Christians hands together for the good of Christ's church. And we're making new friends, we're rebuilding friendships with old friends. And I'll tell you this, as long as you don't get too excited. We have operated with this new structure for 10 weeks now. And over those 10 weeks, Nashotah House has raised more money than it did in the previous 8 months. And one of those months was December, which is usually 35 to 40% of the year. Now, God only knows, and only by God's grace does that sort of thing happen. But when people hear the Nashotah House story, when they get it in their hearts how important this place is for the church and the churches that they love, generous spirits arise. So pray for us as we engage in this ministry. Some of you, I know for a fact, joined us in having a lot of fun with our 180, 18 hours and 42-minute campaign. I see faces and names all over here that gave donations to that. you know, it was a little bit of a lark. Not that we didn't take it seriously. We hoped that we could raise $18,000. With the generosity of a matching gift, thank you, Karen Moore, and that incentive, we actually ended up raising about $60,000. That was Rebecca Terhune's idea. I understand she had pitched it several times to previous administrations. And they all said, well, that's kind of corny, ain't it? And we said, if it works, we're all for corny. Let's do it. And God bless. So, speaking of which, we're restoring the central place of our alumni. Some of you know that we've had ups and downs with the relationship between the administration or the board or the seminary in general and our alumni. Those ups and downs are over. We love you. We need you. We cherish what you do and what you bring to us. And we're renewing the central place of the alumni at the Nashotah House. This luncheon today, not to mention the granting of honorary degrees, especially to two of our most committed alumni, Candace Anthony Herman and Candace Brian Keeler, are all a signification of our recommitment to our alumni. Thank you for your faithfulness. We want to return our faithfulness to you.
Here, here. Thank you.
We've been so delighted in recent years to have folks graduate with their MDiv and with their curate salary immediately commit to a generous monthly donation to Nashotah House in gratitude for the formation that they received. I'm not looking at anyone in particular, guys, but you could stand in a great tradition. This I know, that speaking to an alumni luncheon about the importance of alumni giving is like giving that sermon about church attendance to the people in your congregation. Right? They're the ones who are here. Why are you preaching to us about church attendance? We're the ones that are always here. Folks that show up for alumni days, we know you're committed to us. You're faithful to Nashotah House. You're generous. I see names. I see faces. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. That said, don't be surprised if you get a call or an email saying, you must have friends who are not yet as committed as you are. Would you consider helping your friends to renew their commitment to Nashotah House? Don't be surprised. And one of the people that might call you would be Robin Little, who we've introduced already. Possibly it could be me. Very likely it will be Rebecca Terhune. So for the first time since I've been at Nashotah House for 15 years, we've designated a staff member to nurture and to serve and to resource our alumni. And that person, there could not be a better person in the world. She's an alumna herself with a degree from this place. She's a bundle of joy and enthusiasm, not to mention hard work. She's everybody's delight. Rebecca Terhune, would you stand? You know as alumni you matter. You might not know from our side why you matter so much. And there are really three reasons. First of all, you're our best advertisement. I could say you also could be the worst, but let's just keep it positive today in our luncheon. You are our best advertisement. When I go and see a bishop and I ask, tell me about Nashotah alumni, you're our best advertisement. You're our best advertisement to prospective students. You're our best advertisement to dioceses. You're our best advertisement across your churches. Secondly, that makes you our best recruiters. Again, very, very rarely do we have somebody who just discovered us ex nihilo, without a website, by website. It's almost always personal. And finally, you and your parishes can help solidify Nashotah finances. Please understand what I'm saying here. It will never be the case that our alumni should bear on their back the full financial burden of Nashotah House. You've been called into a ministry that typically does not make you multimillionaires. And if it does, I have questions. We get that. It is not on your backs at all. That said, your contributions, smaller, larger, generous, growing, help to lay a foundation for Nashotah House that puts us on sound financial footing. I think maybe the most encouraging thing in that 1842 campaign that we ran for one day, and I don't know what was the most encouraging, it was probably the matching gift, but right up there with it was the pledge from the son of an alumnus, I'll name him, Gunnar Terhune, whose parents do an awful lot of good work here. He works in a grocery store. He's a college student. He saw the campaign and he said, put me down for $10 a month. He grew up here. He knows how important it is. And he said, put me down for $10 a month and I'll raise it as God provides more resources for me. All of our alumni can do that. So thank you for your generosity. You see at your tables there some different ways to connect and give. There's a QR code if you do that. If you're old school, there's business reply envelopes. This is not a high pressure, big ask. We know you love us because you're here. Thank you. Thank you for your presence. It means more to us than anything else. Well, we have finally two more honors that we wish to bestow today. And, okay, we've got that covered. We were thinking about this day, and we realized that we had two 20th anniversaries for two 20th anniversaries of alumni who just happened to be a little different than all of our other alumni. Namely, that they had also stayed and served here faithfully and been the backbone of this institution for the last 20 years. So we want to honor today two 20th anniversaries who are also 20 anniversary years of very faithful, wonderful service to the Nashotah House. First of all, the Reverend Dr. Tom Wilson. A lot of you have been his students, and that's what inspired that applause. I left my comments. No, because I can just say what I feel. Tom was here when I got here. When I got here, people talked about the Holtzen sandwich, which meant that you had two classes of Holtzen, and it was pretty demanding. But this is what I can say for Father Holtzen. He's a faithful man of God. He's a faithful priest. He serves in ways that people don't always see, and it doesn't matter because he's faithful to his calling. He's a great teacher. Our students do very well in historical and systematic theology on all their exams. It always stands out when I ask people, are they well prepared? The answer is definitely in theology, and that's thanks to Father Holtzen. Father Holtzen, as some of you know, is an expert, among other things, in John Henry Newman. His book on justification, and John Henry Newman is under contract with a little outfit called Oxford University Press, and we look forward to its soon publication. Father Holtzen, thank you for your faithful service.
My name is Tom Holton. I teach historical and systematic theology at Nashotah House. Well, I have a great love for God's creation. Growing up on a farm, I was outdoors most of my life, and so I like to continue that in my own life by taking up the hobby of ultralight backpacking. Certainly, when you go out to creation and you look at the beauty of God's creation, the trees reaching up into heaven and so forth, I think all those things show us that God is there for us, and that sort of minimizes ourselves and our own problems and puts things back into perspective and maybe the way that they should be. On the whole, I would say Nashotah House does what almost no other seminary will do, and that is it tries to form people in the Christian faith in a very deep and abiding way through the actual practice of their own spirituality. The idea of formation in Nashotah House is an abiding one in the Church Catholic. That is, by attending to your prayers and attending to your spiritual life, you'll continue to grow in the spiritual life.
Again, congratulations. By the way, there's nothing more agonizing for these two than all of this, especially watching themselves on video. If Dr. Sherwood starts to run out on this, just grab her. Okay. Dr. Sherwood, as many of you know, is the director of the Francis Donaldson Library, which he has been for some time now. He came to us as a student and stayed as a librarian. And as I have told him many times, in my 15 years here, the only thing that I can say that always works properly at Nashotah House is the library. And I've been some kind of a dean for 4.5 years, and that hasn't changed. It's still the library is the best thing happening here at Nashotah House. Along the way, Dr. Sherwood became also our professor of ascetical theology. There are many things to say about the way that Dr. Sherwood teaches ascetical theology, but the most important one is that he is a tremendous, if you will, advertisement for it. There have been more than a few folks who have taught ascetical theology through the years, and by their lives who say, well, I would rather not have any of that, please. But with Dr. Sherwood, you meet a man who students and faculty alike admire and say, I would like to be more like that, please. So, Dr. Sherwood, we congratulate you, but first we need to hear from you. I know entirely against your will.
I'm the director of the Francis Donaldson Library here at Nashotah House. I've been a librarian for more than 30 years. It's a great privilege, really, to be at Nashotah House in my mind. And this collection, this library, is a little gem that is really quite unique. There's nothing like it. So, from a librarian's perspective, being the director of this library is a dream job. There are many special things about Nashotah House, and I think you notice it the moment you come on campus. There's a kind of special atmosphere here, and it all relates to that ongoing sort of life of prayer and worship that starts in the chapel and extends, from there to the classroom, to the library, to the refectory, to the individual homes of students and their family lives. And there's just there's a sense that it's a holy place.
Amen. Congratulations, Dr. Sherwood. I have no idea what I owe these two for putting me through that, but I know it's a lot. Thank you. We all owe you dearly for your investment in Nashotah House. You've made it what it is for these last 20 years. Thank you so much. Well, that's the state of the seminary, and we think it's good. We think the state of the seminary is good. We're so grateful that you're here. You invested in us by being here. You invest in us in so many other ways. We thank God for all of you. Now, your afternoon is free unless, and I can't imagine why you wouldn't, unless you'd like to see some of our plans, both things accomplished and things that are dreams of ours for our physical plans. So if you meet at 2:30 out under the tent, they will serve you a drink if you wish, of some kind. And we'll have a sip and stroll around to a handful of projects already in progress, already completed, and in our dreams at Nashotah House. If you care to, please join us for that. Otherwise, enjoy your fellowship with one another through the afternoon. At 4:30, we'll have an evensong, and especially with the awarding of honorary degrees to several of our very beloved alumni. So God bless you. Thank you for being with us today.